we're going to talk about some Last of Us DLC and then some of Episode 3.
So some DLC that we never got, but we got
good
it.
DLC, though.
It's pretty good DLC, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, this was the episode we have the most differentiations from the game. But I watched it fully once the other night with you. I've rewatched scenes from it and then have been just thinking about it for the past 42 hours. The entire time this episode was on my mind. This is one of the most emotional pieces of television I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not trying to overstate it, it's just really got to me. This is what I love about apocalypse stories, is when they can tackle the human element and really focus on that. Zombies to me don't just interest me, it's the humans attacking the zombies that I'm interested in. This was a prime example of, I think, taking something from the game and expanding upon it, but making it even better. Mm-hmm. It is very different. The whole episode's a flashback, essentially. And we're getting a build-up to the character of Bill. In the video game, Bill is this hardened, seasoned guy who's really cynical about the world. It is implied that he has a lover, a partner named Frank. But they don't really dive too much into it. You kind of find a letter and you realize they had a falling out. And now Frank tried to get away from him. He didn't like him. And then he dies. Spoilers, by the way. They actually decide to expand on that and give us that story of the relationship between Frank and Bill. They change it. They change the outcome of it. It really worked for the better for me.
In the beginning, we just have Ellie and Joel. I just love the little dialogue between them because it really shows how Joel is really starting to warm up to Ellie to really just talk to her. And just the little adventure exploring, finding stuff, and that's when we also get some interest. Yeah, press triangle, explore. Yeah. But it's also when we get some interesting stuff with Ellie, such as we saw in episode 1 when Joel is beating one of the guards pretty much to death, and the way she was observing him, and she finds a trapped infected, and just the way we get more of that kind of Ellie, where she's this. Tapping into something darker.
You see a hint of, this anger in her.
Yeah.
And she's almost having fun killing this thing. There's a bit of satisfaction to it. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious to see where that's going to lead, or if that's going to lead to a moment between Joel and Ellie. Mm-hmm. Because that we haven't seen in the game. Yeah. Or because that'd be really interesting. Because there's never a moment like that in the game.
Yeah, it's also just great to have a close-up to really see the practical effects at work. It's so nice to see.
The fungus, going out of his eye. Uh-huh. Oh my god. It freaks me out because, it looks like fungus you see on trees and, stuff like that. Like mushrooms growing out of trees and it's just out of his eyes.
Yeah. It's some great stuff. Yeah, it's some good stuff. After they kind of go and do a little side quest, find a grave, and Joel's explaining to Ellie how the government would just kind of come and take people and just execute them. That's when we get such a great transition. Transition into a flashback, and then that's where we start Bill's story. I thought that was a really good transition. It's almost haunting because you see a child's skeleton, and then to see that child alive. And back in 2003, quick flashback.
Just being told, you're going to be okay, let's go, we're going into the QZ, we're going to be fine.
Very haunting.
It is, and it does a good job of transitioning us right into Bill's story, because Venus. No.
Venus.
Well, of course you find the noisiest. It's such a smooth transition to Bill because still giving you that context of what Joel was talking about, but then now smoothly massaging the audience to our next character and what we're going to be meeting through the entire episode. It's so funny because Nick Offerman, first line, he was like, what? Something like, "Not today, you New World Order jack boot fucks," or whatever. Yeah. And it was just and that's Bill. Yeah. We got Bill. I saw that he was cast.
Beautiful performance.
Oh my goodness. I've never seen him to this degree. When he gets older, it's even more mind-blowing. I love seeing comedic actors take on dramatic roles because the most comedic people have a dark side. Seeing it come out here was so well handled and so emotionally gratifying and so emotionally gripping. Happy? No. Sort of, actually. But yeah, actually very happy in a sort of way, but also not happy. We'll get into it. But first, let's retract. Meeting Bill here, I thought was really cool, and it's fun seeing the flip of Joel and Ellie, and this just hit me now. Seeing the flip of Joel and Ellie talking about how bad the apocalypse is and what they miss about the real world. And, Ellie was like, I like the whole grass is greener on the other side mentality argument this episode presents, where Ellie's like, you guys got to go up in the sky. And Joel's complaining about planes. And it's just kind of like a little moment where we're like, oh yeah, we did kind of have it better. I like seeing that, but it's also showing how, on the flip of that, now we see Bill, who's enjoying the apocalypse. He's like, yes, I get to do whatever the hell I want, and he's having a great time.
He's having a blast. He comes out, notices all the neighbors are gone. Free stuff everywhere around you. He's just having a blast. He's having a good time. He's setting himself up, because he's kind of one of those doomsday preppers, I guess you would say, considering the way his character is.
Just give us a Last of Us spin-off after this, and it's just the time where Bill was killing time and chilling. And it's a comedic series about Bill just hanging out. That wouldn't make any sense, but I'd watch it.
This episode did surprise me a lot, because I was just so surprised that they actually dedicated a whole episode to Bill, even though he's not like a super big important character in the game. And that just surprised me. So surprised of how much more character development, and just how much they shown more of this character Bill compared to the video game, because he's just kind of there and then you don't really see him again. There's not really much developed. He's just a character that kind of just helps you along, and then that's it. Yeah,
because like it's a fascinating episode to watch on a first viewing, especially because the whole time you're taking in this emotional, beautiful story between Frank and Bill, but on the flip of that, you're also like, you're kind of waiting. If you played the game, it's a funny experience because you're kind of waiting. You're like, when is the flip going to happen? Because in the game, Frank ends up dying, leaving Bill. So you're waiting for that moment. You're kind of waiting for them to have that falling out where Frank writes the letter. It's like, I always hated you. But again, you keep thinking, are they changing it? Are they changing it? And then, sure enough, by the end, you're like, oh, they really changed it. But what's also fascinating is a lot of the same beats are still hit in terms of where the characters needed to be. Bill's enjoying his life, and then he comes across Frank in this hole. It's his, little trap room where he has this whole setup where it's the apocalypse, and he's protecting his area, and he has a bunch of traps laid out that's been infected over the years. And then we get to Frank, who's trapped in this little hole, and then you can kind of tell right off the bat, Bill is a little off-put by it, but something about it gets Bill's attention. You can tell, like, after a while, he starts letting his guard down, and it's that moment where Bill finally kind of relieves in, and like Frank instead is jokey with him. It kind of throws him off a bit, but Bill, you can kind of tell he's noticing a little bit more about Frank. We'll find out why in a bit. That moment that Nick Offerman just sold me on, like, I love seeing this side of Bill, is when Frank's in the shower and Bill is like offering him some clothes and stuff, and Frank is like just all giddy, and they're not in the same room together, but Bill's hearing Frank in the shower just like, can I have 5 minutes? This is amazing. He's having such a good time, and Bill like has this moment where you can tell it's like he's just happy to have some company.
Yeah, he's been lonely
as fuck.
At this point, like 4 years have gone by. This man hasn't probably really talked to any other humans. He's feeling lonely. Yeah.
I thought the way they handled the dynamic between them is really beautiful. The acting between Nick Offerman and Murray Burlett, Nick Offerman being Bill, Murray Burlett being Frank, is that you see the stepping stones of their relationship develop from being, oh, this is just a guy I'm interested in, to this is someone I'm getting food from, to this is someone I'm getting interested in, to maybe I could even, I don't know, just have a little fun with them. It's the apocalypse, have a little that. But then you see the moment where they're singing on the piano, it becomes more than that. It's one of those moments where he just realizes, oh no, I'm actually in love with this person, or at least I care for this person. This is a care I haven't had. And let's be real, I don't think it's rushed in this sense. In an apocalyptic world, the next person you find along the side of the street is probably gonna, rob you and kill you. You gotta take those opportunities of love when you find them, and you can tell these two found that. I thought it was very beautiful how they did that. And that was something that just was not in the game. And you can't really do this whole story in a video game. It'd be the longest cutscene ever. Here, you could tell, again, like we were saying, they wanted to use the visual medium to their highest advantage. They looked at Bill and Frank and their story, and they were like, how come we not just make Bill some character we meet for an episode? It just become another episode like episode 2, where they had to be stealth through instead of being stealthy outside. One more clickers outside. Now, you get a story with Bill that emotionally becomes a call to action with Joel later.
It's a very beautiful story. First, I was kind of unsure about it. So, more of a filler episode. But then after we talked a little bit about it, you have to see Bill and Frank's relationship develop, and seeing how much they really cared for each other, and then how much they wanted to bring more normal life into their neighborhood, and try to be a normal couple in a weird way in an apocalyptic world. And that's when we get to see more of Tess, more of Joel. It was really great seeing the flashbacks between Tess and Joel. Bill is wanting that he doesn't want any friends, but then sort of starts to find a friend in Joel. I mean, he says he doesn't like him, but at one point where Joel warns him that, hey, even though you may be protected from infected, raiders will come. You know, you gotta be careful about them. And eventually they do. Bill gets injured. Literally, he's talking to Frank like he's about to die, and he's mentioning Joel. Joel will take care of you, you know, if I'm not gonna be here. And it really shows you how much of an influence that Frank was on him, wanting to be normal, having friends and stuff, even though Bill was being very careful and smart about it and reasonable, you know, because most people are just going to try to take advantage of you or kill you or do anything, in a sense, in an apocalyptic world. Like I said, I was like mixed on it at first. I felt like it was just filler, and I felt like Bill's story was being dragged along, but then I realized after Bill's and Frank's story, when Joel finally gets to the house, Joel and Ellie find a letter. They notice that, you know, the flowers are dead, everything's old, covered in dust, sort of. Joel figures out what happens to them. It hits you, you know. That's why we had that whole background. So then when Joel got there, you felt what Joel felt. And especially when in the letter they say, you know, protect Tess, and then knowing that Tess died, and it hits Joel even harder. And there's also a great moment with Joel when we see him about to just like want to cry and break down, but he bottles it up and shoves it down and continues on with his work.
Pedro Pascal, he was already doing great as Joel, but that little scene just made me go, this dude he is Joel. Like, that scene was so good. And that was such a Joel moment. I was like waiting for it. I was like, is he going to break down and just maybe hide it from Elliot? No, he just almost, and then crumbles it up. And we're going to see that explosion in the season finale. You believe me. I hope we do.
It's also very interesting to also see how like Ellie is reacting with the truck. You know, he's like, it's just a truck, you know? Yeah. He's like, put on your seatbelt. And she's just like, what? Like, what are you talking about? This is an alien ship to me, you know? And it's also just great to see that like difference as well. When she was also talking about, you know, the plane and stuff, how he took it for granted. And for her, it's amazing. She's never seen it before. And also like when they start to leave and they put on a little like radio or little mixtape, and it's just still good to see them getting closer together.
And it's great because it goes back to the hopeful ending where, you know, Frank and Bill, because, you know, Bill eventually gets so old, or Frank gets so old eventually when you're seeing that backstory, ultimately decides he wants to die a happy life. He's tired of being taken care of by Bill. And it's not that he's unhappy with him, it's just and I like that the show doesn't explain it. It's probably cancer or ALS or something like that, but basically his body's deteriorating and he just literally can't move anymore. It's such a lovely moment. Frank is like, give me a great last day. Give me a date. We'll get married. We'll have the same kind of dinner that mirrors the first dinner we had together when we met. And then you're gonna kill me. You're gonna give me some pills to eat, and I'm gonna die. And I'm gonna die with you holding me. And what's great is that moment where Frank decides, this is the ultimate differentiation from the game, is when Bill decides to kill himself too. And he uses that line, you know, and where he's like, you know, this isn't a tragic suicide at the end of a play. This is like, I'm old and I'm satisfied. And that's great because it shows that we get that full complete arc with Bill, and it makes perfect sense for this story and this version of Bill. But also it shows what I think it's this small idea that Joel is desperately yearning onto. There's a great loop of life, death, and what it all means, and the cycle of it in The Last of Us that this show is really bringing to life. And I like the conversation there. It's the dying plants and that kind of imagery. It really evokes that idea. Whenever something dies, you know, even the way of Earth, like whenever things die, it can kind of be beautiful sometimes, like decaying cities. Stuff like that, you know. Yeah. And that poetry with life too is what this episode got me thinking of. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk where I'm just talking about shows. You liked episode 3? What did you think?
I did. I think overall, after I really thought it over, I was like, all right, I actually really liked episode 3. I just felt very slow. When I watched it for the second time, the episode felt a little bit faster compared to the first watch.
It's not as jarring because you know we're getting a lot of time with Bill instead of you're constantly thinking, when are we cutting back, you know?
Because I felt like, because when I first watched it, I just felt like, wow, this is going on.
So this is a long flashback.
This is a long flashback. This is some DLC here.
Yeah, exactly. But man.
But I liked it, and I'm excited for episode 4. Yeah. Can't wait for it.
Heck yeah, we're caught up. We did it.
We did it.
We got more episodes coming to you. Thank you for watching Scatterbrained Reviews. It's been fantastic so far. We're huge fans of the game. game. Huge fans of the show, as you can see. Now on to episode 4. That's not 4. This is a 4. Bye.